going to talk about this morning is the North American Camping Report, RV data, camping outlook, and we're going to combine a lot of these things and condense. At the end of the presentation, there will be my email address, and should you want a copy of this PowerPoint with all the facts and figures on it, you're more than welcome to do it. If you're a member of ARVC, you can go to the ARVC website on resources and download the North American Camping Report. The 2018 report is still up there. The 2019 report will not be released until toward the end of April. So the data that I'm talking with you today, except for a couple of slides that I was able to extrapolate out of our information, is 2018 data. We don't see, got a preview of the 2019, we don't see a lot of movement. We do see some movement in key areas, and that again, that material we provide at no cost to ARVC to put on their website so that you can download it. So I don't know, some of you folks that know how to do that can help the others on downloading the material. So it's interesting if we look at some things that are going, the 4 hot things by Entrepreneur Magazine last year came up with the 4 hottest ideas or the 4 hottest things that are coming on for people to jump into as an entrepreneur. The first one of it is BitCurrency. I don't know anything about BitCurrency. It makes no sense to me how you can have pretend money and trade pretend money to someone else and make more pretend money that turns into money somehow. I don't get it, but it's right now one of the hottest things out there. So is cannabis. If you want to get into the marijuana business, as many more states are coming on and making, and now I'm not advocating for this at all, but as many more states are making it legal to consume both recreationally and medically, the marijuana business is one of the fastest growing businesses in our country. The third is virtual reality tech. More and more and more, the context of what's going on in the virtual reality and gaming world is still one of the fastest growing businesses in our country. In fact, on a side note, this past week, are you familiar or have heard of the what's called the RVX that's going on in Salt Lake City right now? KOA, along with the RVIA, Recreational Vehicle Industry Association, has put on this big festival. It's happening. We launched out what's called the Campground of the Future. It's being a lot of good traction, but all of our displays on the Campground of the Future use these interactive, virtual, immersive realities. So you put on this thing and you're immersed in the campground and get to walk around in it. It's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to being able to do that. And interestingly enough, all of this that affects us is the outdoor hospitality industry. Outdoor hospitality industry, according to Entrepreneur Magazine, is one of the fastest growing industries in our country. And we've seen that, we've experienced that. In fact, one of the things that we can talk about at another time is the reality that the outdoor hospitality is fast moving from a cottage industry to more of a corporate setting industry. We're seeing it all the time. We're encountering it. Heather can tell you all about it when she talks about properties that she has for sale and things like that. But the idea is it's moving from a mindset of a mom and pop shop to something multiple holdings, corporate type holding. And we're no longer a secret anymore. No longer a secret anymore. So I just thought I'd begin by saying, hey, we've got a shout out from Entrepreneur Magazine, and as the one of the fastest growing benefits or businesses that entrepreneurs can get into. The data that we're going to be looking at this morning is going to be mostly coming from, as I mentioned, the North American Camping Report. This is an outside third-party study that KOA contracts to do to bring in the data so that we can, as an industry, can have actionable data, make good decisions based upon what we do with our business. Like I said, this is the 2018 iteration, 2019 coming out toward the end of April. But some things that you need to look at as we move through, and again, don't feel like you have to write all this down. I'll give you a copy of this whole thing if you want it. In fact, it's there. So just kind of pay attention and move forward, because I'm going to be throwing a lot of facts and figures your way And I can tell you, you won't have time to write them all down. So the first thing that we need to understand is that 61% of the households in North America camp. I want you to let that soak in. Now, when we're talking about camping, we're not talking about just camping at your campground. We're talking about the total universe of camping. All the way from, the national parks, state parks, all the way down. It includes the this is non-organizational camping. So we're not talking about the population that participates in Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. These are actually family-type households that camp. So the understanding, see, 71.5 million all the way to 77 million, which is 61%. We've seen an increase of camping households of 8% since 2014. That's a good thing for us. That's a really good thing for us. Now let's just drive down. Now out of this total universe, you understand we're going to funnel this down. So we built a total universe up at the top. We're going to kind of start narrowing it down. So out of that total universe, we find that annual campers. Now those are the ones that we like. Those are the ones that camp every year. These annual campers, we've seen that we've had a 20% growth in households of annual campers since 2014. Right now, 39 million households camp at least one time a year.
That's what I was going to ask. So annual campers means at least one time a year, not renting for the entire year.
Right, one time a year. That means they go at least on one camping trip a year. These are not your seasonals.
Sure, which are called annuals sometimes in the South.
Absolutely. So this is going on one trip at least once a year for at least one night. So, and not in their own backyard. So at that point, again, this is good news. All right, but in doing this, I want us to try to understand that if we're going to take this data, those are huge numbers. How are we going to make some decisions about this for our business? So I want you to always, how many of you own a campground or run a campground? That's the most of you in the room. All right. So as we're going through this, I want you to start thinking, what am I hearing that Larry in the yellow shirt is saying this morning that's going to make a difference on my campground? Am I going to make any decisions based on this? All right? So the thing is, I see a shift. There is a shift taking place in the camping market. We saw it now in 2017. We saw it reiterated in 2018. We're seeing it reinforced now in 2019 when that data is released to everyone. We're seeing some shifts. This is what we're seeing. We're seeing more people. I've already talked about it. We're seeing more often. Seeing more people, more often. We're seeing that the demographic is getting younger. And that's good news. That's great news. When I first got started in this, we were an old fogey business. We didn't have young people. We didn't have young families. We had grandparents camping with their grandchildren. We were missing middle generational stuff. So we're seeing a great shift there. And we're seeing that the market is more diverse. And again, good news. So I'm going to touch on all four of these things quickly. So more people. We already talked about that earlier on, but what we've seen is right now in the development, 6 million new households have joined the total market. So what happened is the way it breaks down, this is 27% of the market right now have been lifelong campers. They started when they were itty bitty and they've moved on until they're mature. These are lifelong campers, 27% of the market. That's good. That's the foundational thing. Now also we see 54% of the market have camped off and on throughout the years. Now, one of the things that you want to remember is, we'll chase a little skinny rabbit over here. What's the purpose of business? Let's all take a survey since you're not wanting to participate with me. It's okay. This can be didactic. It doesn't have to be monologue. Doesn't have to be a lecture. What is purpose of business? What? My ears are stopped up.
Do something meaningful.
Do something meaningful. Okay, that's good. I like that. Make money. Family time. All right. It's not my definition. Peter Drucker, the all the old folks in here that read business management books way back when are familiar with the name Peter Drucker. You need to get familiar with the guy. The guy's forgotten more about how to run business. Well, he's not currently with us anymore, but he's forgotten more about business than any of us will ever know. And his definition of the purpose of business is this. The purpose of business is to gain and retain a customer. If you can gain a customer and you can retain that customer, all these other things that you talked about, making money, having good family time, doing all those kinds of things will be there because you've got that guest, you've got that customer. So one of the things on the side note, back over here, put it in your brain, ask yourself when you start going home or in your staff meeting with each other later on today, what are we doing actionably on our campground to gain and retain customers? Because you'll have a successful business if you do that. So this is the thing that I want to talk about. Right here is the retaining portion. So you see the foundational of our market, especially this right here, is that retaining that business. You have to have that. But this is the gaining portion of it. The gaining portion of it. Started camping the last 3 years, started camping last year, 19%. 19% is in acquisition. 19% is in a growing business. And by the way, that's great. If you can have a 20% gain on an established business of new business every year, that's phenomenal. Not many organizations can do that. Because what happens is their customer churn. That they have people going out the back door just as fast as they have people coming in the front door. It's all about this retention portion and that gaining portion. So the market is strong. 6 million new people. Now more often, this goes back to I want to retain. This is in retention. So we have a 64% growth of campers who camp 3 or more times in a year from 2014 to 2017. So that's retention. That's moving more business. I mean, that's a huge increase for us. That means the market expansion is going out there. That also means that what's happening is that there's return intent. Return intent generates new business. How it works on the social media platform, all you social media experts know this, that if I'm happy, I tell my friends, who then they try, they become happy, and then all of a sudden we have happy campers who refer your campground to others. By the way, that's our KOA marketing mantra. Happy campers who refer others to KOA. We want to establish that business. Again, this is great news for us. I'm building a platform of good things. Younger. Again, this is in the growth section of it. You see the generational breakdown. 40% of the market. Now these are current market. This is not something made up at this point. This is current market. 40% of the market is millennials. 36% of the market is Gen Xers. What does that tell you? That's 75% of the market. 76% of the market. That's a shift, guys, ladies and gentlemen. That's a huge shift. And we've seen that shift take over the last actually 3 years. Baby boomers 19, mature 5. Now the idea is you can't, now we'll talk about this when we start seeing how it breaks down into independent privately owned campgrounds. This is of the whole, remember, this is of the whole camping universe. This doesn't necessarily show or reflect what's happening on your park, but I will tell you that more than likely you're seeing this on your park. If you have something that caters to, or you have a portion of your business that relates to short-term or recreational camping. This doesn't speak to your park if you're a long-time seasonal park. If the majority of your park are seasonal campers that come back year after year after year after year, then you're probably right here in this range and not over here. And the only time that you get over here is when they come with them, or when some of you have sites that are passed down generationally. That's when the next generation, I guess, takes over. But what I'm addressing here is the short-term market. More families. This is huge. More families moving into the context of this. Now, the census, the U.S. Census relates that 34% of the population are what would be classed as families, one child in the household. But look, 2012, we were right at census level. Look where we are on market at 2017. We're at 52% of the business. This is outpacing the census level. These are good things. Everybody shake your head. This is good. Okay, I'm going to get you to participate one way or another. Shake your head. Good. Good. All right, here we go. No, I'll save that one for another slide. More diversity. And when I'm talking about diversity here, I'm speaking particularly of ethnic diversity. For the longest time, when I entered, when I participated, probably when most of you started with your campgrounds, the demographic of your campground was primarily Caucasian. Primarily. Would you agree with that statement? Yes. All right. So in 2017, our market mix is at 28% non-Caucasian. Look how that reflects. The census is 36% non-Caucasian. We're making great inroads as far as diversity, ethnic diversity in the context of our camping. This is the cool thing. 36% census, 28% of the market, 49% of the new campers in 2017. Well, let that soak in a little bit. Okay, 1, 2. These 2 tables are going to say ooh. These 3 tables are going to say ah. Ready? Ooh, ah. That's an ooh, ah slide. Because what happens is, as you see the understanding as we're moving beyond the census rate. I saw a hand toward the back.
How was that measured?
It's measured through the North American Camping Report as far as it's related to the demographic survey that's done there and filling out the choice of ethnicity to participate in the survey. So what we're doing is this is straight out of our data. And we didn't target. Remember, these are not targeted. It's third party. We didn't say, okay, we're going to target African American population because we want to skew the statistics. And so this is how it breaks down. 14% African American of the new camper breakdown. Of that, 47%. 14% are African American, 17% Hispanic, 17%, and then there's an other over there. Okay, how are campers camping? Somebody look at that slide and interpret it for me while I take a drink of coffee. I know I'm on video. It's good coffee.
61% are tenors, 24% are in an RV, and 14% are staying in an alternative accommodation.
We gonna say that real loud again? Okay, let me just ask you a question, Heather, since you decided to participate. Thank you very much. What is the percentage of tenters in the total camping universe?
61%.
61% of the total camping universe participates in camping in a tent. I don't like tenters. I don't want tenters on my campground. Yes, ma'am.
Would that be including, like, people who are hiking the Appalachian Trail?
Sure. This is of the total camping universe, non-organizational.
Okay.
So sure. Okay, let's look then. Let's take that and see it translate into new campers. So 53%, 19%, and 25% of the new campers. So 53% are in a tent. 19% of the new campers utilized an RV. And 25% of the new campers were in some sort of alternate accommodation piece. And there's an other there that shows up. I have no idea what that is. It's right there. But anyway, so the idea is what we're seeing it trickle. We're getting some market traction in accommodations of the new business when 14% of the total universe of the overall camping, we're seeing a bump there. That's intent to try. In the marketing terms, what you happen is you look at an abnormality and realize that that's intent. That's purchase intent. That's good. They want to try out an accommodation. All right, so I just threw KOA's numbers in here because our numbers are probably going to reflect your numbers. quite honestly, that 6% of our business is in tents, 85% of our business is in RVs, and 8% of our business is in some level of accommodation. That may be the break of what your business looks like. I will tell you, this is totally skewed by potential inventory. If I had equal inventory above all of these measures, I could possibly get different data. But I will tell you, 85% of our inventory is RV sites, mostly on most campgrounds, and probably yours too. So if that's my inventory, I'm going to fill up that bucket. Now, but what it tells me, draw my conclusion here, is that if I've got potential market base out here and 2 other buckets, why don't I work about expanding my footprint in my buckets? If I expanded my inventory, would I have the market base to expand in that inventory? And the answer to that question is, according to the data, yes. Saw a hand.
I just want to confirm, that's based on revenue or nights booked?
Nights booked, nights stayed. You throw accommodations in there and that skews the revenue really crazy. So these are camper nights. Does that make sense? All right. 25%, okay, here we go. Now then, we're getting into the pudding. We're getting into the good stuff. 25% of the nights camped at a privately owned campground. So, look, out of all of the camping universe, where people are camping, 25% of the nights come on our parks. Where does 75%, other 75% of the nights go? State and national parks, backwater, Walmart, publicly owned land. Now, I tell you what, Walmart gets a bad rap. They do. They're getting only 2% of the business. Right? I mean, it's not, okay. I know I'm meddling in your business, but I want you to repeat after me and try to believe it. It's not as big a problem as it feels. I didn't say it wasn't a problem. It's just not as big a problem as it feels. So, okay, what does this mean for us? I went through our nights of our customers. This is in the data when we go drilling deep into the understanding of surveying our customers. 50% of our customer base will stay at a privately owned campground. There's still 30 that like to stay in national parks. There's still, it still breaks down in the backwoods. You still have it. But the idea is once you establish somebody that wants to stay in a privately owned park, we're having retention. Gain, retain, gain, retain. We're having retention. So what does this tell me about the field of market? Is there available market for us? Absolutely there's available market for us to turn 75% of those into staying at our campground. But I go back here, if my inventory is tied up here, then I am sealed in my market I can't expand beyond what my inventory will allow me to expand. So if I want to grab hold of this market, we may have to look at opportunities of expanding our footprint, or looking at our market mix between seasonals and long-term, a seasonal long-term camper and a short-term recreational camper. Thus, we need to shift our thinking. All right? You ready to shift with me? Clutch, shift. It's not about generations, it's about life stages. We talk so much about generational. We talk about the millennials, we talk about the Gen Xers, we talk about the boomers, we talk about the mature, and we talk about the tweeners, and we talk about all these generations like they live in silos. And they really don't live in silos. So I want us to shift our thinking and not talk specifically about generation, but talk about it's a stage of life. And understanding that millennial families can go cross-generationally, cross-culturally, and cross-ethnically. But we're seeing growth here about the life stage of the market, millennials with children. That's a life stage target. If I were the marketing king of the world for camping, my focus right now, given everything that we know, would be on millennial families. Not just millennials in general, but millennial families. Because they're having a life stage change. That millennial that's backpacking the Appalachian Trail when they have an 11-month-old baby are not going to put the baby on top of the backpack. They're going to want to try to stay in a deluxe accommodation that has a bathroom. Millennial families that have toddlers around typically will camp in tents, but they don't want to camp too far away from a bathhouse. But they'll try an RV, and they'll try a cabin. So what we've seen is we've seen a 24% increase in millennial families. Millennial couples, 18% primarily camp in RVs. 26% of millennial families. So it's about a life stage thing, not just a generation. Let's drill it down into life stage. Okay, now I've quit preaching and I've gone to meddling here. That's a good old Southern term. Wi-Fi is not an amenity. Repeat after me. Wi-Fi is not an amenity. Say it.
Wi-Fi is not an amenity.
It's a what? It's a utility. Wi-Fi is a utility. We keep kicking Wi-Fi around like it's something extra. It's an amenity. It's a pain in our patukas, but it is a true utility. You have to have it. It has to work.
We just can't get it.
I know that's the problem.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
We can't get it. We all want it. We all want to offer
Sure.
it. It's not available.
A lot of things on that are going to be changing in the future.
Great.
And so the thing is, if you can't get it, and if you want it, you need to express that to your customer in such a way as it doesn't sound like an excuse. Because campgrounds make excuses. And they say the same thing over and over and over again. I can't get it, I don't want, and it gets rote in your explanation to the point that the customer is just going, yeah, right. I can go down the road and get it. They don't understand that the two biggest enemies of Wi-Fi are trees, trees, hills, and metal. A lot of our campgrounds have trees, hills, and metal. You know, so there's such a misunderstanding on how it works, and you don't want to get into the weeds and explaining to the customer how radio signal, basic on 60 cycle wave curve and repeaters, and they don't really care. It just doesn't work. So the idea of digital technology, be it cell technology and our Wi-Fi technology, it's here, it's accessible, children grow up with it. You know, I see children that can't talk playing on screens in the strollers. So I mean, it's ingrained in the context. So don't try to over-explain it. Just apologize and be sincere. And tell them that you really want it. Because you want to use it too. Right? It's not. Here's this data just jumps out at you. 40%. 4 out of 10 campers using Wi-Fi on a campground have a negative opinion of its quality. And there are some of us that can do something about that. We just choose not to spend the money to do it. 40% of our customers are not satisfied. That should get our attention. Does that get you? If you had 40% of your customers that weren't satisfied with the service on your campground, wouldn't that bother you just a little bit? Go ahead.
Is that poll including campgrounds that don't have Wi-Fi, or just from campgrounds with Wi-Fi?
You know, it's a good question. I think if I dig in the data, I think what happens is I think it's the idea. I can answer your question later this afternoon when I look at that specific question. But I believe the question is phrased, for those utilizing Wi-Fi on a campground, what rates your experience? I'm about 90% sure that's a question, but I'll clarify that for you. So these are people that are actually trying to use it. Oh, there's the answer to my quality of connections available at campgrounds. So, and the idea is if you had the connection. So I did answer my question. I didn't even have to go back and look it up.
Okay, so are you better off if they say, you know, they're gonna have a negative opinion of the quality, and if you just don't have it, you don't have it?
There's a school of thought there. Or if you have it, you have to set the expectation up front. And like a, you know, I'm all for transparency. And that's that, you know, we have Wi-Fi. You have to understand it's not high quality. And we're working on that. We would love to try, we're working to make that better. But I just want you to know that I am disappointed in it. And if I'm disappointed in it, I know you will be too. But there are some people that just have to go. It might be good to get in and check your email. You know, you might be, but you can't stream and you can't surf. And you know, if you have smelly underarms today, it might not work.
I can give you an example of a campground I've stayed at that they couldn't get it throughout their whole park, but they turned a little area into a coffee shop, and it had free coffee and great Wi-Fi. So you couldn't get it at your site or in your cabin, but you could go up to the little coffee area for however long and like check your emails. And frankly, they didn't have cell phone service. So you go in there and all your text messages pop up or whatever. And I think what he's saying is if you've set that tone ahead of time, hey, we have a set area that it's great, but at your site it's probably going to work.
Well, my response is, we're working on that. And they did come out and tell us, if you have that, it only takes them a few moments to download a Netflix movie. And that has used up a whole lot of your gigabytes or whatever it is. So, but it doesn't take them very long. They can come in, get their free Wi-Fi, and still download. But then you have to put those filters in to download all that. And we still have to get the service to be able to do that.
Sure, and the thing is what happens is if you have the internet, and I'm no expert, but if you have the internet hardwired into your office, so you're not depending upon Wi-Fi to transact your business, that you can take and build, because at that point the router would be attached, and of course always build in safeguards between you. You know, I've got horror stories of people that allow their router access to be unsecured. Whatever happens on that comes back to you. So there still needs to be controls and mechanisms in there. But as Heather was talking about, if you can provide a spot, that's a good workaround. But it's all about transparency. Don't be afraid to let somebody tell you that your baby's ugly in one part. Because it's true. So maybe your baby's ugly, has big ears. Just say, okay, yeah, he's got big ears, but you know, look at those biceps. I mean, there's got to be, in the context of the idea of none of us like to hear that our property is inadequate. That's the thing. None of us want to be inadequate at any points of our business. By the way, if you're okay with inadequacy overall your business, you need to find somebody to run your business that's passionate about it. But none of us want to be inadequate, but we need to address our inadequacies, embrace them, be transparent, and be doing a workaround. I realize I don't have any hair on the top of my head. I refuse to wear a toupee. I've embraced it since I was in my mid-20s. Some of you guys, you have a smart head just like me. It's all my brain has grown through the top of my hair. That's all there is.
Nothing too much breakdancing.
That's right. All right, I digress. We got to get going. Another great data point is 4 in 10, 40% of RVers don't own their own RV. That's cool. 40%. This is nationwide. I don't know how it breaks down in Wisconsin. But 40% of the market don't own their own RV. They borrow it, they rent it. This again is intent to try, intent to buy. The Airbnb of RVing. You say, where are these people getting it? The largest portion of this has gone through the sharing economy. Outdoorsy, camp, and RV Share, quite honestly, are rocking it right now. Outdoorsy and RV Share has more collective inventory than Cruise America, El Monte, Canada Dream. Outdoorsy, RV Share. This is where I've got an RV and it's sitting in storage and I could be making money on it, renting it to you. Outdoorsy actually has done very well. It's probably knocking most of it out right now. So that's where people are getting it. Here's a fun fact. Campers camp close to home. There was this misnomer, and actually something that changed. In the KOA market, we see people traveling further than average, but right now, 59% of the campers camp less than 100 miles from home. What does that tell you? Remember, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to give you some ideas. Where do I need to spend my marketing money? Close to home. That's if you don't take anything out of this class, take this. This will tell you where you need to spend your money. Usage informs design. How are our customers using this? You need to give them a quality experience when they get there. Wow them and dow them. When's the last time you did site improvements? When's the last time that you actually went and looked at the thing around? Is there some landscaping you can do? These are trademarked KOA patio sites and an outdoor experience with a cabin. You know, it's providing the experience of the customer. The usage informs design. How are your campers wanting to use your campground? Is it a vacation spot? Is it a base camp for them to do other things? Is it just a nightly spot on their way? How do your campers want to use it? And then use the design to reinforce your market base, thus expanding your market base. Understand that there are more and more people camping as groups. Now, I'm not talking about group camping, two different things. Group camping is where the RV chapter, a local RV club, rents our whatever, and they rent your room. They want to nickel you and dime you for every little discount they can get out of you to camp as a group, when you'd be better off not camping as a group, getting full book rate on 4th of July for those sites, right? I'm talking about group camping. This is extended families camping together. These are friends camping together. These are families camping together. These are like an impromptu family reunion. These are people at work deciding they want to hang out together on the weekend. We find more and more and more, especially if we're talking about live stage, we're finding millennial families camping with other millennial families. You know, we're finding this. And if that's the case, then don't I need to provide for it on my campground? Site configuration, a place to hang out, pocket park, something to reinforce camping in groups. You don't need to provide a club room with a kitchen, but what are you doing for 6 people, 3 couples, 3 families with 2 kids each? What do you do? How do you accommodate them? What if one comes in an RV, one wants to stay in a tent, one wants to stay in a cabin? Do you have cluster sites that can accommodate that? Or has everything siloed in your campground where you don't mix and match? High utilization of recreation on campgrounds. What are they doing when they get there? So what are you doing to support recreation? Non-staffed, you could have activities. We can have all kinds of things as staff, but what are you doing for non-staffed recreational support? Have you considered it? I want you to think beyond the RV. I can break this down because we can quantify this. This breaks down RV, cabin, and tent by generational. I know you said, Larry, don't focus on generations, but I'm still stuck there, yes. So the idea is, look at the tenting. Millennials, Gen X's. This is of our market. 60% of our Gen Xers, 57% of our millennials camp in a tent. What does that mean? What does that mean for my tent sites? Tent sites are an afterthought for most of us. They don't need to be an afterthought anymore. Know your market mix. Realize there's thing beyond the RV. Don't just provide a cabin, provide an outdoor experience. These are pictures on different KOA campgrounds. That's a woody tent. Unfortunately, woody tents have gone out of business. Yes, ma'am.
Larry, would you say that within that, they're camping in tents, but they still want water and electric?
Oh, absolutely.
Because
Yeah, absolutely. They want to be, by the way, a tent site can't, because of NFPA 1194, can't be more than 400 feet away from a bathhouse. Can't be more than 100 feet away from a water source. But I will tell you that these people want water and electric at their site primarily because they need to plug in their devices to charge them. So you need to provide for that. As I said, unfortunately, woody tents have gone out of business. But, you know, that kind of experience. Notice here, there's a Weber grill sitting out there. I know this person and what they've done, and this picture is bad. It should have backed off. This is an improved deck right here with a fire ring and a Weber grill. I don't know why the Weber grill is usually on the deck. I don't know why maybe the customer took it up there. I don't know. Do you know what the biggest complaint of glamping is? It's huge out there. There's no bathroom. It's all romantic. It's all pretty. You can put the champagne and the strawberries and you can have all kinds of, but when you have to trek down the road to go to the bathroom, it's not so romantic anymore. So there's some people that are building restroom suites when available outside, that you don't have to go down the road, you can just, there's the tent site. So it takes into consideration the amenity base. Put a little money in your tent sites. Rent them for more. You say I don't want tenters on my campground because of all the problems tenters bring. You can price point that problem right out of your campground. And then you price point for the problem, not the problem. You price point for the customer base you want. So we've talked about the North American Camping Report. And that picture reminds me of that very full campground there, that the camping economy is extremely strong. The outdoor hospitality economy is extremely strong. For the first time ever this past year, 2018, the gross national product would measure or has measured outdoor hospitality as a part of the gross national product. So the GDP, outdoor hospitality, the business that you are a part of, is 2.2% of the total national gross domestic product. That's huge. That's $30 billion alone from RVs, the RV industry. RVsMoveAmerica.org. There's your database. So outdoor recreation as a whole and the global RV market, there's $36 billion in 2018, projected to be $54 billion by 2024. So we're part of a huge global economy. Now that Thor has bought Erwinheimer Europe, Thor is now the largest manufacturer in the world, and I've got all kinds of problems because Thor didn't buy Erwinheimer North America. I happen to have a Heimer that was manufactured by North American Heimer of North America, and Thor didn't buy it. The company now went bankrupt. Heimer Road Trek is bankrupt, but somebody will pick it up. But there goes my 6-year warranty. So anyway, long story. That's my whining. You had a question?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, what's your thought on, I mean, obviously as the income is gonna go in the area, you know, a lot of the pricing as far as campgrounds go, there's max capacity. What does KOA think as far as, or personally, you know, pricing things more on the way like airlines do?
Oh, we do it all the time.
You do?
Dynamic
As
pricing.
you get closer to and you're more full, the rates go up?
Yeah, as I will just tell you, we do that on our corporate parks. We've suggested our franchisees do it, and now we're supporting that with our new iteration of software that'll eventually support that. Now our software will do that manually at Clips, but we encourage rate and revenue management. So it's a balance. The other side to that coin is inventory and expansion of the marketplace. And for the first time in years since I've been doing it, there are people actually aggressively going out and developing campgrounds now that have not developed campgrounds in a long time.
In specific areas?
In specific areas across the country, yes. And the idea there is, we didn't have campgrounds built. And the last campgrounds that were really constructed on a large scale were in the 90s. And so now, for example, last year I sold 3 new construction franchise agreements. We did 4 as a company. I've got 3 in the dock already this year. These are people that are buying new construction franchise agreements, going out and building campgrounds that will be built as a KOA from the ground up. You've got major players in the community. Sun especially are doing campground development. They're not only buying acquisition and cherry picking the best campgrounds in the country, they are now actually turning dirt and building campgrounds. So we see that the market is expanding at that point. So there's 2 things to deal with this influx is deal with the inventory and deal with the pricing.
Size campgrounds in KOA, like 100, 140, 200?
I'm sorry, you're going to...
What size campgrounds do KOA like to see in their franchise?
Our average campground is 125 sites across our system. That's the average size of our campgrounds. I typically don't talk to anyone about a conversion that has less than 50 to 75 sites, because at that point we're talking about profitability. So that's where we are. When in our new construction, a new construction franchise agreement has a minimum of 10 acres and 125 site build out. So if you don't have at least 10 acres and not willing to build 125 sites, you can't build out as a KOA.
Do they not want to see them get so large, or?
No, it's just a good starting point, because you're looking at 18,500 to 22,500 per site on new construction on average, not counting land cost. So at 100 sites, you're looking at 1.8 to 2.25 million. And there's still a lot of variables on top of that. It's a very expensive proposition. So the next question is, who are building all these campgrounds? I will tell you, they're not mom and pop shops. They're corporate developers.
They're REITs and mutual funds.
REITs and mutual funds and corporate development. Yep. Okay. Annual shipments. So what we see here is in 2017, there was more RVs shipped than any time like in 40 years. I think it broke a record. 2018, they dropped a bit in shipments. Shipments don't necessarily mean that the market is softening, but look at the monthly shipments. So what we saw was the last quarter of the year, or the last half of the last part of the year from August to December, we saw a decline in shipments based month to month from the year before. Quite honestly, all that is really is inventory normalizing. There has to be, you can't just continue to manufacture. There's got to be some inventory normalization as it relates to sales. Also, we realized that the year before, in 2017, many of the dealers front-loaded their next year with orders from 2017. So again, we're balancing out. Manufacturing is going to balance out, and to be about 2019 will probably manufacture a little less. But the volume is still there to support the customer need. We've not had what we had back in the recession when people wanted to buy an RV, where there was no RV to be made because all the manufacturing had stopped. So right now we feel like this is just inventory normalizing, and we'll have steady flow in the marketplace for available inventory. Annual shipments, again, I mentioned that the annual shipments are going to be probably down a little bit in 2019. That's an estimate, but the volume demand is still going to be there. Here's a cool thing, RV rental registrations. So we had a 4% increase. Although we had a dip in manufacturing, we had a 4% increase in RV registrations across the country. So that means that these are new registrations, not renewing your registration, new registration. Also, we understand from, again, it's anecdotally, as I visited with some manufacturers, salespeople, different things across the country as we talk, we find that about 30% of the people didn't bring a trade to the deal. So that means about a third either are new to the marketplace, or they gave their RV away, or they sold it themselves. It was an up-straight purchase without a trade. So what does this mean? We have tariffs, interest rates, consumer confidence. What's this mean for us moving forward? Well, the tariffs and the understanding is the balance of manufacturing. We may see, as we see cost of goods go up, we see cost of units go up, we see cost of manufacturing go up, we see consumer pricing go up, but the idea is we don't see or haven't experienced any drop in sales at that point. So again, I'm not a manufacturer, but we just realized if I was a business owner that's depending upon people driving in RVs, I would want to still keep an idea on manufacturing and sales because that's my product customer base. It's still yet to be seen if the tariffs are going to really impact that. Interest rates, we all know, we've heard the Fed's already bumped. Rumor has it it's going to bump 4 more times in the course of this year. What does interest rates mean to us? Well, it means if we're going to go out and borrow money for CapEx, we need to probably do it sooner than later. That would just be a thought. But the idea is going on is seeing interest rates will deal with consumer purchasing, deal with purchasing of campgrounds, deal with CapEx for us, which all impacts consumer confidence. All of these things will be the consumer confidence. But I want you to see something. As we measure consumer confidence versus RV retail registrations. So as we track registrations along the jagged line, that's confidence. But look at the swing of registrations since the heart of the recession here, all the way to 2017. So as consumer, you can see, if we're going to make an assumption, we can see as consumer confidence goes up, RV registrations go up proportionally. That's a proportional trend line. Just fun. I'm a data geek. I like things like that. We also find that there's high purchase for a tent. All the major RV shows have had record attendance and record sales at the shows. So that tells you that right now there is still a high purchase intent out there from the consumer. Okay, campground owner, if there's high purchase intent out there, what does that mean for my business? So, we have 5 minutes. So, high purchase intent. That's good for the marketplace. All of these things are good for the marketplace. So, I say that's good for the marketplace. I put that in there for us just to say that people are camping, and they're camping on your campgrounds. The other big thing we always hear about are gas prices. Oh, if gas goes up, blah-de-de-blah, blah, blah. We find that gas prices really don't make a huge difference in our business. In fact, if you look at our growth since 2011, look at the gas prices. So, now, this is recession-driven right here. The gas prices are recession-driven, and so is this. But with our growth, we don't see the effect. Looking ahead, We've had a 79% growth aggregate growth since 2012, year over year. We think that camping is very strong. We think it's very strong in your marketplace too. So looking ahead, we're anticipating another year of growth. We find that looking ahead, that on our survey, 55% of our campers plan to camp more in 2019. That's good news. We hope that your campers are planning to camp more in 2019. So looking ahead, it's strong. Our key indicators, this was as of actually a couple of weeks ago. For the rest of the year, our advanced deposits are up almost 20%. These are over last year at this time. And our value card sales, that's another barometer we use for forecasting. Our value card sales are up 17.8%, above where we were at this time last year. So that means people are booking earlier. The reason they're booking, you know why they're booking earlier? Because they want a place to stay. So what does this mean? So what? There is an increased interest in outdoors. I want you to look at advertising as a whole. Most advertising as a whole is set in the outdoors. In fact, now if you're paying attention, there's a lot of advertising set on a campground or camping. Even the Raisin Bran commercial about bananas is on a campground. I think it's funny, the guy comes out of his Airstream wearing a yellow coat and talks about bananas. What does Airstream and yellow coats have to do with bananas? Well, the yellow, but the idea is it's a camping exchange between a father and a daughter. Have you seen that commercial? Yep. Camping, pets and dogs, kids, and the outdoors. There's a dog in almost every commercial, even though it's not a pet-related commercial. It's advertisers know where the heartbeat of the consumer is. All right. So what does this mean? I have 3 points. We are in an expanding market. That's good news for you. You need to be expanding your market. Second, room to grow market share. We have abundant headroom in this market. The people are out there. Remember, 25% only stay at privately owned campgrounds. So there's a lot of headroom. There's a diverse customer base among ethnicity and multiple demographics, ethnicity and generational. There's a diverse product offering and delivery method. You don't have to just depend on RV sites anymore. Also, there's a tremendous impact, both from provision, providing you good economic impact, and valuation, time to sell. So there's strong in both those three. So 3 things from today's talk. Expanding market base, room to grow, and the valuation is strong, both personally and provisionally. All right. For a copy of this presentation, email me. There's my email address, brownfield@koa.net, and I'll be happy to send it to you, PDF form. Now, we have 1 minute left. Some brave soul jump up and tell me what's one takeaway they're going to take from this presentation back home and apply it to their business. You have to stand up and say it.
Yeah, we met some campground owners a couple weeks ago that have a campground marijuana farm all in one. We should probably buy that since it has.
Well, you know, in some states that would be legal. In some states. Okay, it's been a pleasure. I'll be around during the lunch hour, also at my booth. I'm in 105. Stop by and talk. Thank you for your time.